What's going on?
What's going on? What's going on, everybody?
Hey, want to
Yeah.
welcome y'all to the Real Talking Real Estate Podcast.
Yes.
There we go. We got to get more
Mhm.
professional with our intro. Real
Got
Talking Real Estate Podcast.
Yes.
Absolutely. So basically what we do on here, we talk real talk. I mean, we don't straight no chaser. We keep it real on here. We don't do all the fluff and puff. We definitely keep it real.
We're keeping it 100.
Absolutely.
That's what the young people say. We're keeping it 100
Keep it 100.
on this show. Man, I'm so excited about this show that we got tonight.
Absolutely.
We've been talking about this gentleman since the onset of the show, talking about special guests that we want to have on. And this gentleman actually was one of the ones on the top of our list. So I'm excited to have him on the show tonight.
Absolutely, man. You want to give his intro, bio?
Yeah, we'll talk about Chris Snow, ladies and gentlemen. Chris, man, we need to have a clapper or something. Why can't we have a clapper, man? Listen, we want to bring onto the show Chris Snow. Chris Snow is definitely a visionary leader, a top producer in the real estate industry. Chris has made an indelible mark on the North Florida area and beyond. You know, his dedication since 2004 has built an impressive track record of selling over 2,000 homes.
Jesus.
As a team lead. 2,000, brother. Can you believe that?
That's a lot of houses.
That's a lot of houses. He's right there out of St. Augustine, Florida. He has a huge team. He's doing some amazing things. He sells over 200 homes a year for the past 5 years. He's been selling over 200 homes a year, and so he has a heart of gold. Definitely a man of God. Truly doing some amazing things. I'm so very honored to have him on the show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Chris Snow. And we need to have some. Listen, we need to have some bells. We need to have clappers or something.
Man.
I love it. I want to go get Chris and let him know that the show's starting. So That's an awesome intro. Thank you, guys.
Man. Listen, you made it very easy to have an intro like that, man. You made it easy. You know, sometimes you got to embellish some things, but you made it very easy to speak on you and talk about you. So welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen, everybody. Chris Snow. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, listen, man, we're gonna jump right in it. We know each other. I know you know Maurice. We've talked and shared some things in the past. Go ahead and give us a brief overview, other than what I've already talked about. Who is Chris Snow?
Well, you said it at the beginning. First and foremost, child of God, man. 1999, 2000, right at the millennial. I got saved, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me, personally, professionally, you name it. Everything else stems from there. So first and foremost, child of God. I am the husband of Margaret Snow and the father of two awesome girls, Tiffany and Samantha. And when I'm not with them, we're not at church, I'm at work, so that's pretty much life in a nutshell for me.
That's good.
I'm boring. I go to bed at 8:15, 8:30 at night. So
that's what's up. Well, Chris, man, on the show, I know Maurice gonna say something, but on the show, man, it's about having a real conversation from top leaders like yourself, and on this show, it's not scripted. We're gonna let this conversation just flow. We want the transparency and just drop jewels. Let the people walk away from this podcast with some nuggets, like, okay, that was worth that watch.
Awesome.
So be transparent as you possibly can, and let's go in. Let's go in.
I'll say to you what I tell my sellers, right? Or I'll position it this way: do I have permission to tell you what you need to know, or do I have permission to tell you what you want to hear?
No, what we need to know.
What we need to know. Okay, so we're in good company there.
We're in good company. We're in good company.
Absolutely. So Chris, man, I mean, we see you now, mega team. So take us back to the beginning. Like, when did you come into business? What was it like? Let's talk up. Let's get back to the beginning of Chris Snow in the real estate space.
When I graduated from college, I've always been in sales. So I sold medical equipment, sold products for banks, and bought a house. And the gentleman that did my loan, he's like, "Hey, you should get your mortgage broker's license. You'd be pretty good at this." And I'm like, "Well, what does it entail?" And he's like, "Well, you just take a class and you go do mortgages." I'm like, "Man, I could do that. Sure. It's just selling, right?" So I started on the mortgage side of the business and did that for about a year and a half. And what I found was that as a loan officer, I would go to my sphere of influence. I would get a real estate agent, or I'd find someone who wants to buy or sell real estate. I'd get them pre-qualified, and then I'd hand over a pre-qualified buyer to a real estate agent, thinking, hey, you know what? They'll return the favor. The next buyer that they work with, I'll get a chance to pre-qual. Well, that didn't really happen. So I said, well, I could keep giving these, big referrals. And, when you do a loan, a lot of times you're making a lot less than what the real estate agent is making, because, a person could buy a $500,000 home, but they may only mortgage $150,000. Well, right. Loan officer gets paid on the $150,000, not the purchase price. So right. I'm like, well, you know what? Let me dabble and see what the real estate side of the business looks like. So I went and got my real estate license. That was in 2004, and I wrote loans. I helped people buy houses. It was kind of doing best of both worlds, and really, that experience, and then going through the crash of the market in 7 and 8 and 9, really kind of let me know that, hey, you know what, you've got to have multiple streams of income, and you got to surround yourself with people that can help you build leverage, because you can only do so much to try to grow. And at some point you run out of time, you run out of brain capacity. And so that's when, really starting to build teams back in 2007, 2008, 2009 is when I first started building my first teams. So
Gotcha. So for you coming in 2004, since you already had some mortgage experience, you transitioning to real estate really wasn't maybe a big deal, you would say, or did you have any struggles the first year or two?
Any struggles that I would have had in real estate didn't come because the success came not from having a mortgage background or background in real estate. The success came from being in sales my whole life, going, okay, I wake up today, I've got to talk to people about real estate and get them to do something. And I got to have enough conversations with enough people that somebody's going to do something in the future. And I think that is one of the key things when people get their real estate license. They think that, oh, I've got my license, my friends, my family, the people that know me, they're going to give me business. And that could be further from the truth. So I didn't rely on my sphere of influence. So I'm like, okay, how do I prospect every single day? I don't want to go burn my friends and family out. And in all honesty, I, at that point, I hadn't earned the right for them to trust me, right? I haven't sold a house yet. Why would they put their trust in me when, yes, I bring some knowledge to the table. I bring some, hopefully a lot of integrity to the table, but I haven't proven whether or not I know what I'm doing in the real estate world, other than, being able to write a loan. So my thing is just start having conversations with people and start having prospects call me. And I didn't like the idea of for sale by owners and expires. That just wasn't my cup of tea. I didn't mind prospecting, but I wanted someone who was kind of raising their hand, wanting me to reach out. And so in 2004, I was one of the first agents in our market area to get a website and to have an IDX feed going. Actually, back then we didn't even have the IDX feed, but I started doing pay-per-click advertising. And back then, Google wasn't really Google. And so we had to work through this company called Overture, which ultimately was bought by Yahoo, which is now Bing. And you could go out and buy some keywords, and people would type in those keywords. And I had a form online, they'd fill it out, and I'd give them a call, and we'd talk real estate. And so that's how I got into the prospecting side of it. But I did it every single day. I always wanted to make sure I had people that I could contact and reach out to every day. So the person who just got their real estate license, if you don't have a plan for prospecting, you are going to struggle in this business.
Gotcha.
So let's touch base on that plan. When you talk about the plan, like what advice would you give a brand new agent coming in the game to be able to create that plan, so therefore they have a track record every single day? So what I'm saying is, like, when they go to a regular job, they know what they're going to be doing every single day.
Yep.
And by the end of the week, they're going to get a check.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So what would you tell an agent, a brand new person, or even a seasoned person who just hadn't figured out how to do the game? What type of plan could they get on an every single day basis to ensure success in this real estate industry?
First is the mindset of, I've got to detach myself from the outcome. I've got to marry myself to the process. And the process is, I get up every single day and I'm going to prospect 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4, however long it takes, right? And the metric, if you want to sell 2 houses a month, 24 houses a year, you need to have somewhere between 15 to 20 conversations per day with someone about real estate. And it doesn't have to be 15 to 20 new, but a good portion of those need to be new on a weekly basis. Because what's going to happen is you start those conversations and you have a good conversation with someone. Now that's someone that you need to follow up with a little bit later on.
Right.
So now I'm going to follow up with them a week from now. Now that's one more person that I can follow up with. That's a conversation I'm going to have in the future. But I've got to keep adding new people into my pipeline every single day. And again, you could do it by dials. You could do it by how many open houses am I going to hold? How many doors am I going to knock? On our team, we do a lot of pay-per-click leads. So we have a lot of leads in our database. And so we kind of break it down by dials. And so we know that in our world, if a new team member comes on, if the goal is 10 conversations for the day, we know that for every 100 dials, 10% of them are going to pick up. So that's 10 conversations I've got for every 100 dials. Now, does that mean if I dial 100 people that 10 of them are going to pick up? Nope, nobody may pick up. Yeah. So if I just make it the dials, I don't hit my metric. My metric is conversations, not dials. It's not door knocks. It's not, I got to go knock on 20 doors. Well, if nobody answers it, yes, I've done an activity for the day, but I haven't moved my business forward. I got to have those conversations.
That's good.
Gotcha.
How do you, because you talk about a couple of different things, and you talk about how when you first got into the business and what you were doing when you first got into the business,
yep,
and how your business has transitioned to, you do a lot of pay-per-clicks now.
Yep.
So there's a lot of noise going on in the industry. How to get this lead, and let me automate your business. Let's do click funnels. Let's do business launch. First of all, what do you think about all the new noise that's going on in the industry? Number one. And then how do you maintain the integrity to continue to keep focused on what you're doing?
Well, it may be new noise, but it's the same noise. When I first came in, it was something different. There's always something that says you don't have to work hard and business will come to you. And what marketing, and I've studied marketing over the last 5 years, really dug deep into marketing. It's always about creating a problem and then providing a solution to the problem, even though if you didn't know what that problem, that you had that problem, right? Sure. You're creating that angst that someone has, and they're like, okay, now I have this problem. Now I need to go figure it out. For me, it's always been, again, when I first started in the business, I knew that I needed to have an opportunity to talk with people on a daily basis about real estate. And when I first started, probably first week or two, that was the struggle, because I really didn't know what that looked like. And then I just started researching. And I just said, look, if people are online looking for information about real estate, then I want to put myself in a position where they can find me. How do I do that? Right. Mm-hmm. And then now that becomes a little bit easier of a conversation. But if you look at success, it looks a lot like hard work, right? I think as Thomas Edison said, most people miss out on success because it looks like a guy in overalls, right? So you've got to be able to say, if what you're hearing is prospecting is dead, or do this, take the magic pill, are there things that work out there? Sure. But, for the newer agent, it really goes back to the basics. And I think a lot of team leaders, a lot of top producing agents and teams really saw that in 2022, because you had a 2-year frenzy of, it didn't really matter. Your skills didn't really matter, right? People were constantly, they were afraid of missing out. So they would grab the first real estate agent they could find and go put an offer in on this house, right? When the market slowed down in 2022, really starting May of 2022, right about a year ago this time, all of a sudden, people who had skills started to elevate and increase their business.
That's good.
Even though the business was flattening out. And the people who did not have those skills, did not have that work ethic, what you saw is that they were putting their license on hold by the end of the year. They were getting out of the business.
Right.
So for me, it's, having that mentality of, I'm not going to wait for someone to give me business. I'm going to go out and find it. Some people are hunters, some people are farmers, and some people are just sit back and let someone bring something to me. I tend to be a little bit more on the hunter. Probably don't do as great on the farming side once I've got it in my bucket and closed on it. Probably don't do as great a job of the long-term follow-up for the after sale for the customers after the sale. So that's, again, a weakness we know that we have that we're addressing, but we'll never have to worry where the next deal is going to come from because we're constantly reaching out to new people in our database.
That's good.
Gotcha.
Good.
Gotcha.
I heard a quote. I know you got something to say, Maurice. I heard a quote. Someone said, "Don't complain about the results you got by the work that you know that you didn't put in."
Yeah.
So that goes back to what you were saying. So it's powerful.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Got you. So question for you, Chris. So something you said that really, I've heard somebody else on the podcast say it as well, basically saying fall in love with the process and not the result. So what advice would you give agents who are putting in the work and just not getting the results, or they feel as though they're not reaching their full potential, even though they're putting in the work? What advice you would give to those folks?
I'd say look at the work that they're doing. Are they doing things that's keeping them busy? Are they doing things that are actually moving their business forward? There's really only a couple of ways that you're going to grow your business, right? Go do open houses, call for sale by owners and expireds, door knock around, just listed, just sold. Even if you don't have one, find someone in your office that you can say, hey, can I go do some door knocking, find a farm area and do that. There are plenty of ways that you can do things without having to spend money or a lot of money. You just have to be willing to have those conversations and be willing to be bad until you get good.
That's good.
Gotcha.
Right?
That's cool.
Because what you lack in skill, you've got to make up in volume. I wasn't good on the phone when I first started, but I'm better. I can always get better, but over thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of calls, you get better. And, somebody said, if you want to become an expert, it's something that takes 10,000 hours. Nope.
No.
It takes 10,000 repetitions. How long you take those repetitions is up to you. If you can get better, with 10,000 putts, 10,000 free throws, 10,000 phone calls, if you put a plan to say, I'm going to do this over the next 2 years, it's going to take you 2 years. If you say, I'm going to do it in 2 months, I'm going to do it in 2 months. You're still going to get the repetitions in.
That's good.
And what I tell our team members is that it's a lot harder to sell 3 houses a year than it is 20 houses a year. And the reason why is that those 3, unless you do them back to back to back, you're spreading those out. You're selling one and then waiting 4 months and selling another and then waiting 4 months and selling it. You never get any momentum, and you're always relearning what you had learned before and having to put it back in practice. So it's like you can learn to ride the bike again, but are you going to be as good as when you first started and you going to have as much endurance as when you first started? No. But if you do it every single day, you're going to get really good and you're going to get good fast. And so for us, we talk about like, what is that perfect day? What does that perfect formula look like? It's prospecting in the morning, ideally 8 a.m. to 10:30 to 11 o'clock, right? 8 to 11 prospect. Once you're done, if let's say we're having a conversation, I'm having a great conversation with you, and you're like, hey, yeah, there's these 4 properties I want to go take a look at. Can you find out some information? Absolutely. And you hang up and you're in the middle of your prospecting time and you start doing research on those properties, you failed. Because my prospecting time is my prospecting time. So how we exit that conversation is, hey, that's awesome, Chris, Maurice, I'm going to get that information right back to you. I'm in an appointment right after this. I'm going to be tied up till about 11 o'clock. I should have it to you by noontime.
There you go.
Now, most people don't do that because, one, they're afraid that they want to do it right then because they're going to forget, right?
Yeah.
Or something else is going to get, and they just don't do it. And so they feel like the highest likelihood of it getting done is getting done right then. You could do it, right? But you're going to sacrifice that hour, because if it's your first call of the day and it's at 8 o'clock and you spend the next hour and a half of chasing down something, you've lost that prospecting time. Right?
Yeah.
So do your follow-ups, 11 to 12, go grab some lunch. And then if you have not booked an appointment from your session in the morning, then what else you got to do?
Mm-hmm.
Get back on the phones and keep making calls until you book an appointment.
Gotcha.
Because it goes to, we make dials or we have conversations so that we can book appointments, so that we can go show and list houses, so that we can go, get a closing and negotiate a contract and get to the closing table and make a paycheck.
That's good.
Gotcha.
That's good.
Gotcha.
I mean, that's, if you really want that, that is all our business is.
Is that your typical day? I know you kind of ran it through. Is that your typical day?
When I was in full-time production, that was my typical day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And so what I would do is I always knew that 1 to 3, 3 to 5, I have blocked off for appointments. Right.
Okay. Showing appointments.
Appointment, whether showing appointment, listing appointment, I just knew that those times were blocked out.
Okay.
So I didn't have to worry about, well, let me check my calendar. My calendar was open. Now I just had to double check and make sure I didn't have somebody else that I'm showing property on that. But if you find yourself that, when I first started in sales, I was very much I don't like to live by a calendar. I fly by the seat of my pants. I don't want to be bound by, this calendar that's telling me to do things, because I felt like it was too restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And what experience and, failure, you learn that your calendar is there to create freedom, not to prevent freedom, right? Mm-hmm. Is that if I know all the important things that I need to have, they're already in my calendar at the beginning of the week. So when somebody goes, oh, can you go drop and do this right now? Right. I look at my calendar. My calendar is going to let me know whether I've got free time and availability for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotcha. So Chris, let's kind of walk through your career. So you came into business 2004.
Yep.
You were a solo agent for
a couple of years and started to build a team in 2006, 2007.
Okay.
And so we started over at Remax. And then I left for a short period of time and then came back to Remax.
Okay.
And, we built a team that really, we focused a lot on distress sales. So we were doing a ton of short sales. And then we started to see by 2009, those short sales weren't getting approved, even though we worked on them for a year and a half. They weren't getting approved, and they were going more towards foreclosure because the banks were like, no, we're just going to finally foreclose on it. And so me and a business partner at the time, we were like, look, we need to go set up an REO company. And we couldn't do it at Remax. There was already an REO agent that was there. And so we went out and started our first independent brokerage, and we focused 90% of our business was REO, 10% was retail. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we did that is that's where you could make money in real estate during that time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so you did that so you had this REO company, 90% REO. How long did you do that for?
Yeah, until about 2013, we started seeing it was, again, anywhere from 80 to 90%. By 2013, we started adding additional buyer's agents because we were starting to get a lot more buyers who were calling us off the signs. They're like, we don't have time to go service the property and go show the property. So we started bringing on a few more buyer's agents. And, by 2014 into 14, we were like, wow, we need to open this separate company away from REO, because now all of a sudden those buyers are like, well, I've got a house to sell. And a traditional seller didn't want an REO sign in their yard because their neighbors would be like, hey, man, what's going on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
we started our own second independent company. And by 2015, our sales volume had gotten pretty high. And at the time, we thought it was high. And Century 21 came to us and was like, hey, why don't y'all open up a franchise with us? And we did that in 2015. And then by 2017, we were like, this probably is not the best fit for us. And then 2017, we transitioned, we bought out of our franchise agreement. And in 2018, we brought our team over to EXP.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. I heard you say earlier that you had left Remax for a short amount of time. Was that out of the business, or that was just kind of restructuring? Okay.
No, just I wanted to kind of do something a little bit on my own, and I had an opportunity with a broker down in Palm Coast. It was like, hey, if you go open an office, I'll be your broker of record. You just run your own little office. I did that for a while, and it was fine. There was a little bit of a disconnect between what he was looking for and really what vision I saw for growth and stuff like that. So
Gotcha.
yeah, they were more on the discounting side of the brokerage, and we were trying to bring up our average commissions as opposed to focusing on, just getting a listing because, you're charging a low flat fee.
Gotcha. Now, Chris, you mentioned in your time frame, I think you said you owned a franchise for maybe a few years, a couple years.
Right at 3 years.
Right at 3 years. So what was the most challenging thing for you during that 3 years of when you owned that brokerage?
Well, first and foremost, anytime you own the brokerage, you lose some autonomy about what you can and can't do, right?
Gotcha.
So I couldn't just go put bricks and mortar anywhere I wanted to. I had to stay within a geographic area. You still had some freedom to kind of run your franchise the way you wanted to, but you were kind of at the limitation of some of the technology that was available at the time. Because you're paying quite a bit in franchise fees, and you're like, well, I probably need to use these tools. But really for us, I think that the hardest part was, as broker of record, as you started bringing more agents say stupid things, right? I hate to say it. Y'all want to, agents say things that they should not be saying. And it put my business and my business partner at the time, it put our livelihood at risk, right? Mm-hmm. Because Freck wasn't going to be picking up the phone and calling in. They were going to be calling us saying, hey, how are you allowing this person to do X, Y, and Z, right? So that was the hardest part, was just kind of knowing at the end of every day, what's the call that I'm going to get that I don't want to get. And fortunately, we never got it, but it was like, there were just enough instances that you're like, am I going to get a call on this? So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that, for me, that was the hardest part, when, being a franchise owner and kind of being locked into that franchise.
Gotcha.
Chris, I got a question. So what, if you had to go back and tell your 2004, Chris, what would you tell him that you found out now? What would you tell him to help him out in his business?
Buy Bitcoin, buy Google, buy Apple. And then get out of real estate altogether. No.
I love it.
No, I think for me, the later adoption of video in my business, I would have told myself in 2004, hey, when video doesn't seem like a cool thing right now, and it seems like a lot of work, but it is going to be the future. So get good at it now. That would have been the thing that I would have focused on first and foremost.
Video.
We were on another podcast talking to Josh Rogers, and he was talking about, what was it? He did like 2,000.
Yeah, he's done like 1,500 videos in 3 months.
Yeah. Yep.
Just insane. So I would agree. So you tell your then self, get good at videos.
Get good at video. Feel comfortable on camera, right? And you don't have to be great. You just have to be comfortable. Just be yourself. And I think that's the hardest part, is that people try to be something they're not on camera. And so, hey, just people are they're going to meet you. They're either going to like you or not, right? So, just be who you are. Let your natural personality come through on the camera, and really start to dig in on those tools that will help you grow your business, and do it in such a way that gives you more leverage in your business. Now, me having Google PPC leads, that is me prospecting for customers, and marketing being a leverage point for me. So I don't have to go door knock to find 20 people who are thinking about buying or selling real estate. I get 10 or 15 of those a day that come into my database. And now the process is just reach out to them.
Gotcha.
Video does the same thing, right? Is that you create content that people want to consume. You put it out there, and while you're sleeping, people are consuming the content. And then you still have to respond back. You still have to, your prospecting is done a little bit differently, right? I'm doing my prospecting in front of the camera, having a conversation with someone about real estate, but I can have one conversation that goes to 5,000 people, and it just continues to grow and grow and grow without me having to reshoot that video.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
That's good. So what do you think some of the biggest challenges that the agents that we have now, what do you think some of the biggest challenges are that most agents aren't successful? What do you think it is?
I don't think they want to work. I mean,
all right now.
Wow. I'm serious. I mean, it's not that they don't know how. When
they want the easy road.
Come to our team, and we put all the tools and resources, everything that they could. If you come to our team and you don't see success, it's not because you didn't have the right tools, the right training, the right this, because we have enough other people who have gone onto the team with the same stuff and found success, right? It's more times than not, people are trying to push back on the process. And again, I say the process. Look, and I'll tell you, look, you could go run your business however you want. I don't know whether that works or not. This is what I know works. And if you follow A, B, and C, your outcome is going to be D, right? But if you do X, Y, and Z, I have no idea what that's going to amount to. But I do know this. If you have enough conversations with people about real estate and you make that the primary focus of what you do each and every day, you are going to find it very hard to not be successful in this business. It's not about what kind of camera I have. It doesn't matter what kind of CRM I'm using. It really becomes, am I doing the activity that I need to do on a day-to-day basis, which is conversations with people about real estate? Am I doing that enough? And am I putting myself in a position to have that, right? Case in point, right? I say I go to bed at 8:15 every night. I'll come home and my wife, like tonight, I'll get home and it'll be about 7 o'clock. She's like, hey, you want to go grab dinner at the club? Something like that. And I'm like, nope, I don't. Why? Because I know that when I go and I put myself in a group of people that know me, inevitably the conversation is going to come around to real estate. They want to know what's going on in the real estate market, and I'm going to engage and I'm going to have conversations with people about that. And I've been doing it for so long, they expect when I go to a bigger event, I don't ask for it, but they will solicit my opinion. And that's okay. I don't mind it. And it's a great problem to have, but there are times I just need to turn it off.
I love it.
So if you're not sure who to go talk to, just get into your friend group and just throw out a question. Did you see what the house down the street sold for? Right? Make it as open-ended as possible, as opposed to, hey, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate? Now, it will ultimately come down to that, or it could potentially come down to that. But you just want to open up the conversation and provide value. So when they start talking, I've got my 8-9 talking points that I go into every single day. You know, I go into MLS, I pull the stats of the things that I want to have conversations, the same thing every single day, so that I can look at trends and I can talk to them about trends and what's happening. So when they go, oh, well, that house sold for this. And I'm like, well, would you believe? No, it was listed at that, but it actually sold at this. Or, oh, yeah, you know, there's all this inventory is coming on the market and everybody's prices are dropping. And I'm like, well, where'd you hear that? Well, that's what the national news is saying. Well, would you believe that, you know, we actually have less inventory today than we did 2 months ago, and it's burning off faster than it did last year? And we don't have enough inventory to support the amount of people that want to buy right now? No, I didn't realize that, right? So you don't have to be skilled and have a ton of sales to be able to go in and actually just pull a little bit of data and have it at your fingertips and be willing to share that information with people.
Gotcha.
And do it in such a way that it's non-threatening and you're not telling people they're wrong. It's just understanding where they're coming from.
That's good.
Gotcha. That's good. Gotcha. So Chris, I want to kind of shift the conversation just a little bit back to the broker owner, because I think that's important, because I see a lot of agents who want to get their broker license and start their own brokerage because they want their own thing. So other than the agents that kept you up at night, what other top 3 or a couple of things that kept you?
Compliance. You know, when you're broker of record, you've got compliance. You've got to manage all the documents that are to go along with the transaction, and there's nobody there to bail you out, right? I mean, you can hire someone, but now all of a sudden you own your brokerage. Now I'm bringing on staff to hold me compliant to what my agent should be doing in the first place, but I don't have time to check it all. So, or you know what? Yeah, I've got to check it all because I can't afford to hire someone else. But then now all of a sudden I got to go, because I'm not as profitable being the broker. Now I got to go out and show property, and I've got to be in the business. And so who's running the ship?
Who's running the show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And
producing broker.
So I would just say that the upside for having a brokerage, and I know some great broker owners, and they are fantastic people. And it just, for me, it just, the fit, the downside was not enough for the upside of what having my own brokerage provided.
Gotcha.
Now, if I was able to grow 500 agents at my own brokerage, maybe I look at it a little bit differently. But again, that's more headache. That's more compliance. That's more having to pay to fund the growth, right? And you can't really turn that off.
Gotcha. So was that one of the main reasons you said, "Hey, I'm done with this. I'm going to go ahead and take my brokerage and close the doors and go to EXP"?
It really came down to kind of weighing what's the upside, what's the downside, right? Okay. And if all I was going to do was make a lateral move from being a broker owner to just not being the broker owner, yeah, maybe. But there were other options that we could have gone to out there. But if they were a lateral move, then you know what? We had too much at that time. We were running about a $50 million business. We were closing about 150, 160 transactions. And our growth was growing. And I'm like, that's a lot of risk for a lateral move. I don't necessarily want to just do a lateral move. I gotta be getting something more than what I'm getting right now.
Gotcha.
And so when we saw EXP's business model, we're like, okay, we have a cap on how much we're going to pay into the company, where we didn't have a cap with Century 21. We were always paying in that royalty. We looked at it like, okay, I own my franchise, but what do I really own? I own the rights to a 2-mile radius around my office. I don't even own my office. I don't own the branding. I don't own anything like that. I just own this little area. So I didn't have any ownership. And so when we saw that, okay, well, for doing all the things that we were going to do anyway, which is go and sell houses and sell them at a high level, they were going to reward us with stock in the company. I'm like, well, gosh, that's kind of cool. And really the biggest thing was now all of a sudden being able to have a national platform to bring people and recruit to, because, you're sitting here in Jacksonville, Florida, and, someone in South Carolina calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm thinking about, joining a Century 21 up here. What's been your experience?" I'm like, "Well, hey, I've enjoyed it. It's fine. They got some tools and they have this," and they go join that brokerage. I didn't even get a call from the broker up there, So it's like, right. Not that I'm do things to just expect, but it's like EXP, like they reward the things that you want to have your agents continue to do. You want them to sell a bunch of houses, they're going to give you stock. And they're going to keep giving you stock, right? And if you want the agents to help you grow, well, we're going to participate and help you share in the revenue. It's funny. Google's one of the biggest companies in the world, right?
Right.
Google, one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yep.
So big they bought YouTube, right? Two biggest search engines in the world.
Yep.
They started growing rapidly when they started sharing revenue with the people who were making the platform work.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So they rewarded the content creators. They rewarded the people who were getting traffic to their websites and stuff like that. And so it's like, all right, when you share revenue from the company, now all of a sudden the dynamic changes. You're no longer just an agent and a number. And I always hate to use the word business partner, right? Because I'm not a business partner of EXP. I'm a valued member of their organization, of the community, and they they compensate me for the value that I bring, and the more value I bring, the more they compensate me.
Gotcha. So one last quick question for you, jump up in there, Chris. So when you were a broker owner for Century 21, you were responsible for all the expenses of the building, the lights, or was that a shared? How does that work? So for those who don't know,
everything the franchisee pays for.
Everything you pay for.
Everything I paid for. Yep. And then you have to pass that expense along to your agents, right?
Yeah.
And in order to start recouping that. And when you're operating for the most part as a traditional brokerage, you're either targeting brand new agents who you can get on a very value-based commission split because you're having to teach them everything. Or if you go and target the agents that are producing a lot, you have to pay them a higher percentage of the commission as they should. They should negotiate a good commission split. The problem is you just run out of money, right? Because in order to take that top producer and say, hey, come over here, they've got to see that they've got resources that they don't have available where they're at right now. Well, who's going to pay for that? Well, if the top producing agent doesn't want to pay for it because they need the higher commission split, you're relying on newer agents to come in. Well, we know that 87% of the new agents fail. So you got a business model that's
because the top producers are going to want the most money. They're going to want the 100%.
Or as close to, and again, we could never give 100% because we had an 8% royalty.
Right.
So the highest you could get is 92%.
So and I want you to be raw. So when a person comes up to you, you try to share the opportunity with them, and they tell you, Chris, no, if I'm gonna build something, I want to build my own company. I want to go out there and open my own brokerage, and I'm gonna build my own thing because I want to leave a legacy for my family.
Right.
What does your mind be thinking when you hear that from them?
Again, it's to support the decision that they've made in their mind, right? And I want you to build a legacy for your family and your stuff as well. The question is do you have to do it the traditional route that you're thinking? Or if there's a platform out there that allows you to do it in a faster manner with less risk, would that be a better thing for your family?
Good words.
Right? Good words. Because again, the person who has the mindset of wanting to build and grow their own, they didn't just start with that. They've been thinking about it for a long time. They finally validated it enough in their mind to actually express it. So for me to shoot it down and go, oh, that's the dumbest thing you could ever do, they're immediately going to turn you off.
Right. That's good.
And so it's just, I can share with them, I was at the same point you were. Here are the decisions that I had to make. Have you considered these?
Gotcha.
Right.
All right.
Everybody wants to buy. Nobody wants to be sold to.
That's good. Right. So what about EXP? We heard EXP is a recruiting company. It's all you guys want to do is recruit. I had about 15 people tell me about this. Do y'all even sell houses over there? All y'all talk about is recruiting. What's going on?
Well, obviously we sell a lot of houses because a whole lot of houses. If you cannot, if nobody sells houses, there's no revenue to share, and there's a lot of people that are sharing revenue, right? So, I would say that no different than a buyer or seller who picks up the phone and says, "You're the 14th person calling me. I know that my house is expired on MLS." Are you going to stop calling for sale by owners and expireds? No.
Of course not.
No. It's just that person's time has not come yet. They don't have enough pain. And if they truly took a step back and realized, and I guess it depends on how people are approaching them. Are they coming from the standpoint of contribution? Are they coming from the standpoint of, well, this is just one more person for me to bring on to hit my own goal, regardless of what their goal is?
The value.
Yeah. It all starts and ends with value. If you cannot be more valuable to a prospect than their current situation, whether it's their broker, their team lead, or whatever, if you can't provide more value than that organization, there's no reason for them to leave, regardless of splits and stuff. Because we start thinking like people think the same thing we think, right? And they don't. I mean, they've got different goals, aspirations. They got different things. And, monetary may only be a small portion of it. They may like their small office and intimate community that they have. And there's nothing that you can say to that person that's going to change their mind, right? It's the heart decides and the mind justifies, right? So their heart decides, I like it over here. I feel comfortable. And then they will start to justify why they don't leave, right? But if something changes, you just want to be in that position of having a conversation with someone so that if something does change and their current situation looks a little different, I just want to have provided enough value to you that you would have a conversation with me about what it could look like taking advantage of this opportunity.
Gotcha. Chris, you've been in the business. I'm let you go. This is my last question.
No, go ahead.
Chris, you've been in the business since 2004. We're in 2023 now.
Yes.
So when did Chris really come to terms and say, you know what? I really know what I'm doing right now. I'm really in my space. I'm really clicking on all cylinders, baby. When did that happen?
The moment that I get there, I will be leaving the business.
Okay.
Because how I sold in 2004 and 5 were different than how I sold in 8, 9, and 10, which were different than I sold in 11 through 14, 14 through 20, and obviously 20 to 23 is looked completely different, right? One of our core values for our team is innovation, right? Is that we're constantly learning, because it's for me, it's like the gospel, right? The Bible has not changed in 5,000, 7,000 years, right? It is the same. The method of delivery looks a little different now than it did, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, 100 years ago. The message hasn't changed, but the delivery has.
Right.
Because customers haven't changed. Billy wants to buy a house. Sally's got a house for sale. How do we get these two together, right? How do we match them up? It looks a little different now than it did back then. And so we're constantly looking at how can we speed that process up. And the biggest thing for me is how do we lower people's sales skepticism so that they know that whether you buy or you don't buy, whether you sell or you don't sell, I'm going to provide you with value and information that when you choose to do something or do nothing, you've made in your mind what's going to be the best decision for you and your family based on real information.
That's good.
That's all I can do. And same thing, whether you're recruiting, the same thing is here's what it looks like. This is the information. And how can I support you in a decision, whether to stay or to do something different?
Gotcha. Good. So Chris, you mentioned that, hey, once you figure this thing out, that you've arrived, you're out of this business. But let's just say you haven't figured it out for the next 5, 10 years, for our sake of this question.
Yeah.
So where do you see your business in the next 5 to 10 years?
So, in 2021, we hit 220 sales, and we were right at just shy of 100 million in production. Last year, we pulled back just a little bit. We still sold 197 homes. I'm not giving myself some credit for some referrals, but 197 homes sold. And we were right about 84, 85 million in production. This year, we've already sold 103 homes. We're on pace for about 300 transactions and right around 114, 115 million in production. The goal is to get to 500 sales, right? I'd love to see that hit that 500 sales and get to 300, 400 million in production.
Gotcha. So I guess it is true. We do sell properties at EXP.
They do sell properties. Let me piggyback on that. What does that look like for your team? What does that look like for your team build? Because I know we're not going to do 500 million on all those houses on your own. So what does your team concept look like in the next 5 years?
Is to continue to grow. First goal is to get to 50 agents on our team. Right?
Okay.
Right now we're sitting 18, 19. So we've got a growth to try to get 30 agents on our team before the end of the year, which we've got a chance to hit our goal with our current core team. But anything that we bring on between now and the end of the year is setting us up for our growth for next year. And because we already know our numbers and our stats is that, those 30 agents that we're going to bring on will generate another $500,000 to $800,000 in gross commissions, which obviously the office makes a percentage of that split, which is great. So yeah, it's no different than breaking it down to how many calls do I need to make today to have conversations with people about real estate, to selling properties. And until we get to the point on our team where we have more people than opportunities to service our team, then we'll stop growing. But I've never had that.
Never got that.
Because I know the lever that makes more leads and more opportunities come in. And if I bring on an agent, then we just turn the lever a little more. And
so you control the dial. You can control the dial. That's good.
What I can't control, what I can't control is whether people are willing to come in and work. And we can interview them. We can talk with them. They can tell us the best of stories. And 6 months later, we're looking on, they still haven't sold a house. They were a great interview, but they haven't sold anything. And I've had people that bombed interviews, but we took a flyer and they were amazing, right? So you tell me, if you know some way to predict success. And my coach, he told me, he's like, look, he goes, stop trying to predict who's going to be successful and not. Stop tying yourself to the outcome. He goes, you tell your agents this, detach yourself from the outcome of a buyer or seller call, detach yourself from the outcome of an agent coming onto your team. He goes, do your systems work? I'm like, yes, they work. They work very well. Do you have plenty of opportunities in your database? Yes, we have plenty of opportunities in our database. It goes, okay, if you've got tools and you've got systems and you have resources, that you've done what you're supposed to do.
That's good.
What you want to do is create a system that when someone chooses to be productive, the tools, the resources, everything will be there for them to plug into. You cannot convince them, twist their arm, bribe them to be productive. They're either going to be productive or they're not. So when we earlier in the conversation, when you said that, why do agents fail? They just either they don't want to work or they want to figure out a bunch of different ways not to work.
Right.
They want to be busy.
It's almost like they get busy in the non-productive activities, non-producing activities.
Well, I can't go out and sell houses because I don't have business cards.
Right. So let me work on these business cards first.
So when I came to EXP 5 years ago, they gave me 1,000 business cards. All right. We've sold 1,000 homes during that time. I got like 700 business cards left. It's not about the business card, right? Business card never made me a sale, right?
Right.
So, it's well, I can't do this without this, right? No, it's you can't sell houses unless you have conversations with people about real estate. And the longer you take to accept that fact, the longer you're going to delay the inevitable, which is I'm either going to do it or I'm going to get out of the business, right? And for some people, that's a transition going, well, I'll just go to new home sales, right? I'll go to new home sales because the people are going to come into me. Okay. Sure. That's fine. I don't like the freedom. I like the freedom aspect of controlling my schedule. And if they don't want to buy this house from this builder, I can sell them anything. Right. But there's nothing wrong with new home sales, and some people are better suited for it.
Gotcha. Has there ever, since you mentioned it, you talked about some people get out of the business and they'll go do something else. Has there ever been a time in your career where you thought, this ain't for me? I'm throwing in my hat. This ain't for me.
Yeah, about 8 a.m. this morning. No, I mean, there's been times in my career where I always kept my real estate license, I always sold. But, I've had a growing family. So at different times when the market was tough, man, I was working another job as well. It's like you do what you have to do. But if ultimately, Jim Rome, I watched an old video that he did. And I probably watched this 4 or 5 years ago. And he goes, look, if you know that the business that you want to be in is going to be that's where your fortune's going to be made, right? He said, but you got to make your income right now. So work your income, make your income full time, but work part-time on earning your fortune and building your fortune. And then ultimately you'll be able to flip-flop those two. Mm-hmm. And the problem becomes is that I think what ends up happening is if people take a step away from real estate, they exhale, they're finally seeing a paycheck come in for the work that they're doing. And it's so much harder to start back if you pause, right?
Wow. The momentum, you lost your momentum.
Yep. Wow. Yeah. Yep. And again, we get trapped in the company's providing me resources. They're giving me a 401k. I've got healthcare. And I get it. Those are all things at different times can be very important, but there's a sacrifice that comes with it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And somebody said, well, what if you want to raise in real estate? Well, just talk to 20 people a day instead of 10 people. Talk to 25 people instead of 20. Right. If I want to raise, I know how to make more money.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to more people.
Gotcha. That's good. So Chris, so any final thoughts to those seasoned agents, new agents, to whether they help them grow their business, or just showing them opportunities? Is there anything that you want to say to those folks?
I would say don't get distracted trying to do everything. Pick one thing, go deep, don't go wide, and don't do 5 things at the same time and go, okay, well, which one worked? Because you don't really know, because you didn't really dig deep on any of them long enough for any of them to take traction.
That's good.
So go deep, not wide, and pick that one thing that you know that you can do every single day, not get bored with it. Let me take that back. With success comes boredom, because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're getting a predictable result, which is leading to success. You want to live in the boredom of the process. Now, the excitement comes when you get the crazy buyer or crazy seller, the people that just make the transaction lively. Let that be the surprise and, the thing that's a little bit different each time, because every transaction is different. But live in the mundane. We get up, we make calls. There's only a handful of objections that you're going to hear on a regular basis. Get really good about acknowledging, deflecting, and then moving forward with that conversation.
I love it.
So Chris, real quick before we go, because you brought up something that I really want to touch on, and I've heard this from Josh as well.
Yeah,
is the boredom to success. So what advice would you give those who really got to have that shiny object, that magic pill, but don't understand that the daily grind of the boredom is what's going to get you that success?
Well, do all the daily grind stuff and then test the shiny object.
Okay.
Don't stop what you're doing that is successful with the hope that the shiny object is going to make, because at some point the shiny object is going to get bored too. You're going to get bored with that too.
Yeah.
Right. So, just think about your best athletes. They do the same thing over and over and over. How many times you need to see a guy shoot a free throw? How many times you need to see, a guy on a putting green, putting a 2-foot putt? And it's like, they're living for that process, because then it becomes second nature. Right. If you're not prepared and you haven't had that, that's when you get exposed, when someone asks you a difficult question or puts you in a difficult situation. Right. That preparation isn't for the best of times. It's for when the crap is hitting the fan.
That's right? Gotcha. That's good.
Gotcha. So Chris Allen, did you have any other questions?
So, man, there's so many, I wish we had another hour, man. There's so many things that we could have unpacked in this thing. I would like to know one last question, though, because I know a lot of students, people want to know your work balance. How do you maintain and deal with your work balance?
So here's what I would say is, if you like getting up at 7:30, 8, starting your day, you're going to have a hard time with work-life balance. I'm usually up between 4:30, 4:45. I get my crap that I need to get done personally done before 7:00, so that by 5:00, unless two fine-looking gentlemen that invited me on after hours to come sit and talk. You know, I'm usually done at 5 o'clock, and I put something on my voicemail to say, hey, if you're reaching me, and it's after 7 back then, and I've just left it on there. But if you're reaching me after 7 o'clock, don't expect to call back until the next business morning. So get your stuff done, get up early, sacrifice that part of it, because to me, sacrificing the sleep, sacrificing some of the other things is an easy sacrifice for what I'm getting on the backside, which is I get to go home, hang out with my family, spend time with them, take a vacation when we want to take a vacation, take time away, because I know that I've done the hard things, and it makes it really, really easy to step away. And I think the reason why most agents will start to flame out is that they haven't married themselves to the process. They're not doing the things at the end of the day, so that at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, it's still in their mind. I know I should have been doing this and I didn't get that done. And now that's occupying their time and their thought, and not, my kid and we're sitting down having dinner together, or, we're outside playing, doing whatever.
That's good. Man, listen, great show. Great show.
Lots of fun, guys.
Yeah, man. Great show. You dropped some major stuff, man. You dropped some good stuff. It's almost like you and some of the other top leaders, and I can see why you guys are top leaders. It's almost like you guys went to the same school of thought. A lot of these things kind of parallel with some of the other ones as well. So it's amazing. So we thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And guys, I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. If there's anything that we can do for you, please don't hesitate. Just give us a call.
Absolutely.
We're there.
I need some, I can't grow a beard, and you guys have got that going on. And
but listen, can't nobody rock it like the beard of realtor. Can't nobody rock it like that.
I got like a week of stubble going here. Can you tell? Right?
Yeah, that's good stuff. It looks good. Listen, but you got your pockets are full, so keep your pockets full. That's all we want. That's all we want. So listen, again, thank you for hanging out with us on the show, Real Talk of Real Estate. Until next time, y'all, don't talk about it, be about it.
God bless, guys.
Thanks.
Peace.